This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome everyone. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm the Director of Business Development for the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development. We're very pleased to have not only our presenter today, but several special guests. We'll be handing it off to Valerie White, the Executive Vice President and Executive Director for the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development. As I mentioned, we will be addressing the questions at the end. So if you would, please utilize the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to address all those questions. What we typically do is we're going to send out the recording of the video to all the attendees, as well as if we miss any questions, we will send out all the relevant information that will assist you all your answers, as well as the relevant web links that we'll be discussing today. So without further ado, I introduce the Executive Vice President and Executive Director for the division, Ms. Valerie White.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ryan. I'm just want to check everyone can hear me, correct?
Yeah, you sound great. Yep.
Okay. Right. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Valerie White. And as Brian said, I am the Executive Director of the Division of Minority and Women Business Development at Empire State Development. Thank you for joining us today for our Small Business Resources webinar, and I hope that everyone remains safe and healthy during these critical times. I especially want to thank Senator James Sanders, Jr. of the New York State Senatorial District 10. Senator Sanders also served as Chairman of the Committee on Banks and is the Senate author of Article 15A of Executive Law. I am very pleased that Senator Sanders is able to join us today and will be giving remarks following mine. We are very grateful for his continued partnership in promoting and supporting our New York State MWBE program. I would also like to thank Virginia Smith from the Rochester branch and the branch manager at the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, who will discuss disaster assistance, capital programs, and more things with you today. We understand that the COVID-19 pandemic has had various challenging impacts on small business communities throughout New York State and across our nation. However, our division is committed to ensuring that our MWBE firms still have the information, training, and resources to succeed. We will also be hosting additional webinars in the coming weeks to provide ongoing capacity building resources and tools for MWBEs. Please be sure that you check our Empire State Development website for the upcoming webinar schedules, as well as for any COVID-19 specific updates, such as how your business can continue to receive support or how you may be able to help New York State. As always, our division is here to serve New York State's MWBEs, and together we will weather the storm and continue to produce the most successful MWBE program in the country. And now, without further ado, I welcome Senator James Sanders. Senator Sanders?
It's a joy to be here, my director. It's a joy to be here in spite of these difficult times. Thank you and the division. Thank you and the governor's office for seeing it fit that we still, in the midst of all of this, try to move ahead. In Mandarin Chinese, there is no word. In fact, they use symbols. There's no word or symbol for danger, or a crisis, rather. They use two symbols. One is called danger, and the other one is called opportunity. So in Mandarin Chinese, a crisis is a dangerous opportunity. This COVID-19 business has put us in an incredible, dangerous opportunity. On one hand, the danger that our businesses will not survive this pandemic. The other hand, the opportunity that we can survive and thrive if we position ourselves well, if we can ride these waves. This is the challenge that all of us will find. The challenge for government, of course, which I am a part of, is that we need to find ways of aiding you. We need to find ways of seeing if we can ensure that there are grants afoot to help you, not simply loans, but grants, or at least loans that turn into grants, because we find ourselves, especially as NWBE, overcapitalized and underfinanced, overcapitalized, etc. This is the time that we're going to have to think out of the box and look at the issues of bonding, of insurance. We have to look at all of these issues in terms of getting capital and using it. And I assure you that we in the Senate will do our part, and you can get in touch with us. My name, again, is State Senator James Sanders, Jr. My telephone number is a 718 number, 523-3069. I repeat, 718-523-3069. I eagerly look forward to hearing from you, and I'm going to be quiet so I can hear the rest of this. Thank you very much, Ms. White, and all of your fantastic team for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Senator. Pleasure to have you here today. I was fortunate enough to meet Senator Sanders just a few months ago in Albany, so another honor to have you here today, sir. So thanks again for those comments. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Virginia Smith. Virginia, thanks again.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to the Senator and to New York State MWBE for hosting this. We're going to talk a little bit about what SBA does on a regular basis that we are absolutely still doing. And then I'm going to get into the 5 different programs that we currently have available to help with COVID-19. So SBA is the federal agency that focuses directly on small businesses. We aid, counsel, and assist them in any stage of the game, whether it's starting, operations, or expansion. All the programs I'm going to talk to you today are national programs, but obviously we are in New York State, so we want to make sure that we stay here and we help our local economy and our small businesses going forward. When we talk about SBA, we talk about we call them 3 C's in a D. We facilitate access to capital, which is the first C, which just means we help figure out how to get money in your pocket so you can run your business effectively. We provide counseling and training, which is the second C, and we help figure out how to increase procurement contracting opportunities, which is the 4th C. So capital, counseling, and contracting. The D comes in disaster. SBA is the federal agency that's leaned on when it comes to helping the economy rebuild from a disaster. FEMA typically comes in for our weather-related disasters and recovers, and SBA is looked at as the engine to rebuild. So we're going to go through the disaster portions after I get through a couple of the C's. So what I want you to know is we're still open for business. We're still doing a lot of online trainings and, starting to think through how do you win back your customers after we've been closed for a while? Or is crowdfunding something you might be interested in doing for your business? So even though everyone is remote and we're working from home, we still have the ability to train on the computer or on the phone or even just through our learning modules. So SBA.gov is going to be the best place for that. From a government contracting perspective, especially right now, the federal government is still buying products and services left and right. We are the world's largest buyer of anything. The federal government purchases over $500 billion of that every year. 23% of $500 billion is required to either go directly be purchased from small businesses or via subcontracts to small businesses. So make sure that we want to help you figure out how you can sell your product or service to the federal government. Each agency has their own small business goals. So that's the website where we start to advertise on contracts. How we actually assist with government contracts is we make sure that small businesses receive their fair share. We will publish on an annual basis. Did the Department of Defense, did the Environmental Protection Agency, did NASA, did whoever actually do what they say that they were going to do? Did they really give 20 or provide 23% of their funding to small businesses? Classes and workshops, we have a lot of those. We have certifications. Many of you have maybe heard of our 8A certification, our women-owned small business, our service disabled veteran-owned small business hub zone. There's a lot of those. And if you want further information, our website is up to date and we've got some great resource partners that we can get that information to you. We also do matchmakers, which many of you are familiar with. Every year, SBA for New York. I'm sure I know mostly about upstate New York. So we have Rochester, Buffalo, Albany, Watertown. And we also do local spotlight matchmakers. So we will go to a very large company and they will have 3 or 4 of their buyers sit in the room. So University of Rochester, for example, had dozens of their buyers in a room, and that allowed the small businesses to meet with them directly. So we host those, and we're going to get back to it. Maybe they might take a little bit of a different turn this year, but I promise one of our big roles is making sure that we can connect you with the people who buy for the federal government on a regular basis. So let's talk about COVID-19. I'm going to always refer you back to one website, and that's sba.gov/coronavirus. We are literally every day putting information on this website. This is such a fluid process because we are finding that some things could be more effective if they're written a different way, could be more effective if we bring in more electronics, and I'll explain what I mean to that in a minute. So always, 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 we want to bring you back to this webpage because that's where the most updated information is. Updates, sba.gov/updates. That website will actually allow you to put your email in, and then you can decide what regions in New York you would like to get information for. And then SBA will send you an email every time there's news or maybe an event in your area, etc. And if you find that you are receiving too much or you just don't want to be on there, you'd go back to sba.gov/updates and click off, and then you wouldn't get those emails anymore. So I will kind of talk a little bit going through this presentation what we've changed, because some of you have, missing a slide. Some of you have heard about various programs that we have and may have heard different information than I'm going to give you today. And quite honestly, you might hear different information tomorrow because we're revising things as we speak. So always go back to that website. So we're going to talk about economic injury disaster loans. I will try my best not to speak in acronyms. But if I ever say idle during this conversation, I'm referring to economic injury disaster loans. So eligible businesses are small businesses, and these are SBA size standards, which are larger than the New York State size standards. Small agriculture cooperatives, small aquaculture businesses, and most private nonprofit organizations. Ineligible businesses are agriculture enterprises, religious organizations, charitable organizations, gambling concerns, casinos, and racetracks. So real quick with private nonprofit eligibility, if you happen to be a private nonprofit, nursing homes, food kitchens, museums, educational facilities, etc., those are all considered nonprofit organizations that are private. Eligible is a nonprofit organization that is not a government agency and has a letter from the IRS for that revenue code or satisfactory evidence from the state that you're a nonprofit organization doing business under New York state law. So economic injury disaster loans are different than our standard SBA loan. They come directly from Treasury. Normally, when you work with an SBA loan, it's because you went to a lender and something made them nervous, so they'd ask SBA for a guarantee. That's not the case here. This money is directly coming to SBA or to you from SBA. You will actually apply to our website. I know this website says disaster loan at sba.gov. You can go there, but again, the easiest place is sba.gov/coronavirus. And the idea is you will actually, I'm going to walk you through some of the screenshots. You'll actually apply online. Everything's done online. It's very quick. The form itself, there's no cost to apply. There's actually no obligation to take the loan if it's offered. There's maximum unsecured amount is $25,000. And so what all that means is you can go apply for this loan, and it is a loan. You it actually just in the past week, we now have a $10,000 grant attached to it. So you apply for the loan. There's a box that says, I would like to be considered for up to a $10,000 cash grant. The $10,000 is up to $10,000 because it's $1,000 per individual employee. So if you only have 8 employees, it would only be $8,000. So it's up to $10,000. You apply for that. Once the loan is approved, and again, there's no cost to you to apply for this loan, within 3 days, you will get up to $10,000 in your account that you can then use for working capital purposes. If you do not want the loan that's attached to that grant, you don't have to take it. You can just say, you know what, I only want this $10,000. I don't want a loan. Not a problem. We'll actually give you 4 months to reconsider and go back and say, yes, I do want that loan. But if you don't, that's fine too. So you have under no obligation to take the loan if offered. We're going to ask for available collateral. If you're a service-based business, oftentimes you don't have collateral available. So, you know, we're not going to turn down a loan if you don't have the collateral, but if you do, we are even willing to take a 3rd or a 4th lien on something just to put some collateral out there. Some of our businesses in the area have had disaster loans in the past because, let's say, flooding from Lake Ontario, you can have multiple disaster loans, but only one per disaster. So you can actually borrow up to $2 million. The idea is that it's one loan. You can go back and ask for additional funding if you need it, but it's all going to be under that one loan amount. The interest rates are 3.75 for small businesses and 2.75 for nonprofit organizations, with terms up to 30 years. Well, how does that work? Why does it say terms up to 30 years? So this is a strictly working capital program. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at your books, at your balance sheet, at your profit and loss, at your sales, your cost of goods sold as of January 30th. We're going to look at your business before this crisis hit. Then we're going to look through the next however many months it is and work with you to figure out when you feel that your business will be back up and running to capacity prior to when the disaster hit. And that will multiply out the working capital that you need for that amount of time, and that's going to be your loan amount. And by the way, we're going to defer the first payment for a year. So once you get that loan amount, we have to figure out what your payment's going to be. So we're going to go back to that January 30th and say, what can they cash flow? How much of a payment can they cash flow once their business is up and running? And when we determine that payment that you can cash flow, that will then determine the loan term. So that's how that works. How can you use these loan funds? It's for strictly working capital purposes, fixed debt, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills, say insurance or healthcare, you know, things like that involve for working capital. It's not intended to replace lost sales or profits or expansions. The idea is that if you're a seasonal business or you do an event that's really big in August, this loan will cover the working capital you need to get to that event, but it's not going to cover, the 20% extra you thought that you would earn because you were there. We are going to pull a credit report on the business owners. Obviously, this is nonprofit. We don't pull a credit report. We talked about how we're going to determine repayment ability, and then eligibility. Everybody in New York State is eligible for a COVID-19 disaster loan. We talked about collateral requirements. Over 25,000, we're going to take collateral. If there's real estate, we are going to look at putting a lien on that, but we're not going to decline it if you are a service-based business or just a different business that doesn't have collateral available. Okay, that's a double slide. So there's some basic filing requirements. You don't need these documents to upload into the system, but we do encourage you to have them with you because there's a couple pieces of information you'll need to input your application, but these are the documents that the loan processor is going to ask you for when they call you to talk about your loan approval. So complete copies of the most recent federal income tax return. We understand that a lot of you don't have your 2019s available yet. That's okay. You would just give us your year-end profit and loss statement and balance sheet for 2019. Your schedule of liabilities, personal financial statement, a current year-to-date profit and loss, and the big thing for economic injury disaster loans is providing those monthly sales figures. So again, this is just kind of a heads up slide for you so that you know what's coming when the disaster loan processor calls you to talk about the loan, but you do not need it to apply. How you're going to apply is SBA.gov disaster or SBA.gov/coronavirus. It's literally all right there. I'm going to give you some screenshots. We've got a fantastic customer call center, which is actually based out of Buffalo. And this is their phone number, including their email, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. I am a local contact here at SBA, but they're the ones who are processing these loans. So any sort of detailed information about where your loan is in the pipeline or that sort of thing, we're going to refer you over to the Disaster Customer Service Center. So just some quick notes about these loans. If you need more money, say it's July and you're like, this just wasn't enough. The disaster I haven't kicked back in the growth of my business yet. You can come back and ask for more money. It's still going to be only up to $2 million, one loan. If your loan request is denied, we will give you up to 6 months to give us additional information so you can submit a request for reconsideration. All right, so I'm just going to give you brief snapshots of the loan portal. So again, SBA.gov/coronavirus, you're going to follow the prompts and it's going to give you this: apply for assistance for disasters. If you take a look at sort of the top of this is a process map. You'll have to go through disclosures, put in the business information, the business owner's information, additional stuff. So what I want to do is show you this screenshot. Is it is going to ask for an EIN or a social if you're a sole proprietor. It's going to ask for your organization type if you're a nonprofit, etc. And it's a SMART application. So depending on what you ask, the next questions are going to follow down. This is different for those of you who applied a couple weeks ago. We found that the system we were originally using, now that we have a nationwide crisis, was clunky and completely inefficient. So over the weekend, I think 2 weekends ago, we shut that entire system down, quickly built a new one that's very basic that you're seeing right now. So if this looks different than before, your old application did not get lost, but this is the one we're using at this point. So some just other information. Here's 2 numbers that you're going to want to make sure you have because the system will not let you save the application. So you're going to need these. You need to know what your gross revenues were for the 12 months prior to the date of the disaster and your cost of goods sold. So someone asked me today, they own a bed and breakfast. What was their cost of goods sold? Everything that they do to run that bed and breakfast is considered a cost of goods sold. So you might have some unique questions, but those are the two numbers that you're going to need through this. Here's the big red arrow. And of course, we don't have a big red arrow on the screen. You want to make sure that you hit that I would like to be considered for an advance of up to $10,000. And you give your bank name and your numbers, your account and your routing number, because otherwise we will not consider you for that $10,000 forgivable portion of the loan. Who doesn't want a forgivable portion of a loan? So make sure that you click that button. All right, so now I'm going to talk about a couple more programs that are available in the disaster side, but these are all flowing through private sector lenders. So your lenders in the area who work with SBA will be running these programs. I just wanted you to know about them. The SBA Express Bridge Loan Program is a $25,000 bridge loan to get you through with cash in hand before the economic injury disaster loan is approved and you close and get that money in. So the idea is that you have this $25,000 bridge loan that gets you cash today, which you can then refinance into the EIDL loan when that comes into play. You go directly to your lenders for that. This is something new, this SBA debt relief that was actually released in the CARES Act. So we want to get this word out to everyone. If you currently have an SBA loan and it's in regular servicing, starting with the next payment, SBA will actually pay your principal and interest for the next 6 months. So what I want to be clear of is any of you on the phone have an SBA guaranteed loan, call your lender and tell them that you heard about this debt relief program on a webinar, and they will work with you to figure out how the SBA will pay that portion of your loan. In addition, if you are working with a lender and you receive a regular SBA loan, so this doesn't go into the payment protection program, you are also eligible for that 6 months of principal and interest that SBA will pay if your loan is approved prior to September 27th of 2020. This doesn't include payments on the loan I'm about to talk to you next, but with this program, please make sure to contact your lender because 6 months of payment of principal and interest on your loan could be huge for your business. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the payroll protection program, but I have to be very clear about this program. Anything I'm going to say is currently available on our website. There's a lot of information that is still being written as we speak. So a lot of clarification that we don't necessarily have right now. So anything I'm going to say, you are able to get it on the website and we can go from there. It's sba.gov/coronavirus. And this program goes directly through your local lender. So you're still going to call your local SBA lender and have a conversation with them or visit their website to see how they're all handling this particular program. Eligible businesses. So this is include nonprofits, veteran organizations, tribal concerns, sole props, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors, as long as they have 500 or fewer employees. So the size standard is based on the number of employees, not revenue generation. The maximum loan is up to 10 million. How they calculate the loan is, and you can see this on the application, is 2.5 times your average 2019 monthly payroll. That's going to be the amount of loan. What was the average? We're going to multiply it by 2.5. The interest rate on the loan is 1%. It has a maturity of 2 years. The first payment is deferred for 6 months. It's 100% guaranteed by SBA. There's no collateral, no personal guarantees. No borrower or lender fees payable to SBA. Now, here's something that's very different about this loan compared to the economic injury disaster loan. The payroll protection program loan can only pay for Payroll, mortgage, interest, rent, and utilities. Those are the eligible costs, okay, for use of proceeds. There is a loan forgiveness portion that if you spend in the first 8 weeks 75% of that loan on payroll and the other 25% on the eligible use of proceeds, it could be forgiven. So this is the portion where people are asking a lot of detailed questions that we just don't have all the answers on. But the language that you're seeing right now is what's currently written in the eligibility online. Again, these programs are going through our local lenders. A lot of people are asking me, who is a local lender? Who do I call? I've heard on the news so-and-so says they're not doing it, or so-and-so says the website's down, or whatever news that you happen to be capturing at that moment. What we did was we created a portal that allows you to put in your zip code to find local lenders in your area. A lot of these lenders, you're still going to have to make a phone call because these lenders are, if they want to participate in the program, it's up to them and they have to make that decision. So you're still going to have the conversation with the lender themselves. All right, so these are just some numbers for you to have. We have always have local assistance. We have SBA disaster. We have this is my contact information. I also have Greater Rochester SCORE and the Geneseo Small Business Development Center, but SCORE and the Small Business Development Centers are located throughout New York State. There's going to be somebody near you. And I gave the website down there for the latest. If you want to look for somebody more local to you, you can go to sba.gov/local assistance. So we have a lot of information out there. But there's that website again that I keep talking about. So Ryan, I'm all set for now. We have some time for some questions. I don't know how you want to handle that.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to read off some questions here. We are receiving some good questions. So thank you for all that information. And we recognize that everything is very fluid. For example, I just went back out to the SBA website and I swear it has changed since this morning at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning since I was out there. So things are being updated very rapidly and the environment is very dynamic. So again, we're going to do our best to address those questions. We will be, again, sharing the recording of the presentation, as well as we're going to compile a list of Q&A, questions and answers, and we'll provide that to everybody. And we'll also provide all the relevant additional information that we need. So if I may, I'm going to go ahead and actually open it up for our panelists, if any of our panelists have any questions that they would like to start with. And then I will read off some of the other questions. Several of you are muted, but we can unmute you. Okay, so we're going to jump right into some of the written questions. So several people were just asking, obviously with the generous 10,000 advance, emergency advance, does that have to be repaid? So we're getting a lot of people asking.
No, it does not have to be repaid. Not only do you not have to take the loan that's going to accompany it, but you do not have to repay it. You can just straight up take the grant. But in order to apply and be approved, you still have to go through that system.
Okay, great. And if they participate, if they take advantage of both the PPP as well as the EIDL,
yes.
Can you maybe talk about how they forgiven this, or how
so
they
how
this what's forgiven?
Well, okay. So how it works is you should absolutely apply for both. Absolutely apply for both. What then happens is you have to be very clear on what you use each of the loans for. So you can't use them for the same purpose. So let's say that you use the payroll protection program to cover your payroll, your mortgage interest, and your utilities, right? So then you use the EIDL program to cover the other working capital that you have in your business. you can actually pay your term debt principal from an EIDL program. You can pay your fire insurance from the EIDL program. So you just need to make sure that you're not using the use of proceeds for both loans for the same thing. If indeed you do receive payroll protection forgiveness and had already received that $10,000 from the EIDL program, that $10,000 will be deducted from the payroll protection forgiveness portion. But those are the two caveats.
Okay, great. And actually, this is a very good question. If someone has applied and it did not give them the option for the grant, should they go back into SBA and reapply? Yes.
So that means they either applied before we changed the system to make it more efficient, or when they applied, they forgot to check the box. Either way, you need to go back and you need to apply and make sure to check that box.
Okay, great. Several questions regarding what constitutes payroll. For example, we have one that's a single member LLC. We've had others that had mentioned that, if they have 1099 contract workers and the like. Can you discuss a little bit
I can discuss a couple things. So I'm going to refer you to your lender, number one, because they can provide more guidance than I can about payroll, but I can tell you about 1099s. So it's been issued in the guidance that if you have 1099 workers, you are eligible for payroll protection, but you're only going to count your payroll and anyone who's not a 1099 worker in the loan amount, because the 1099 worker can actually apply for the payroll protection on their own. Okay. So when it comes to how you calculate payroll and all of that, those documentations, I'm going to encourage you to call the lender that you would like to work with and have that conversation with them.
Great. And I'm going to add to that. When we send out the recording for the presentation, most likely it'll be tomorrow morning. Sometimes it takes a little while for WebEx to provide that recording. But I'm going to provide additional information. For example, we're going to reiterate some of the SBA website. And out on the website, there's actually an interim final sort of guidance that was published. It gives examples of how to calculate your average payroll and different situations. So we'll make sure that you have that information, because obviously not everyone is in the same boat, but it does discuss the 1099 employees are eligible to apply for themselves. And again, I think your lenders can provide you with a little more guidance. For example, whether you can provide bank statements and the like. So we'll make sure you have all that information as well. So just looking through some of the other questions. So we've addressed if they can apply for both, we've addressed that. And then another question, how can I calculate the PPP to pay myself? Again, we're going to refer you to the website, and also that guidance sheet gives examples. We'll make sure that you have that information. So Virginia, we've also heard about I'd say maybe the unfortunate timing of a startup business. For example, we have someone here that says they haven't really even, they left their corporate job in February. They haven't really even gotten their payroll, and they haven't even paid themselves yet. Have you heard any questions, or have you have any information that you can provide for people in that situation?
I'm sorry, Ryan, explain that to me one more time.
So yeah, it's just the timing issue. They just left their corporate job in February, and they haven't paid themselves yet because they are a startup business. However,
Okay,
they do
so
have one
you're going to need to look at the rules on that, because I'm not exactly clear, but I know that for the payroll protection program, there are caveats in there. If you weren't in business in 2019, If you had some sort of business in 2020, there's a caveat in there. So I'm going to refer them to the regulations because there is something in there for very, very early stage startup businesses.
Okay, great. And again, we'll make sure we provide that to you. And Virginia, could you discuss the participating lenders that are participating in these programs?
I will tell you that every lender is currently eligible to participate, and if they're not, they're working on getting that done. It's truly up to them how they're handling the loan processing of it.
Okay, great. And I just on a side note, I believe as of yesterday morning, I saw a report that there were over 2,400 lenders already participating, as according to CNBC.
I saw a report that I think it's almost double that at this point.
Oh, wow. So just in one day, it's doubled.
So the other thing I would say to you is there is a lot of money. $359 billion is a lot of money. So please contact your lender. Please make sure that you start the process. But we have a long way to go to spend that money.
Okay, excellent. Scrolling through, just bear with me here. There are a lot of similar questions. And again, if we don't capture your question, you can contact us directly, but we will be providing a Q&A out to the audience. And honestly, I believe we've covered most of it. Again, if we missed one of your questions, I'm just looking through them. A lot of similar questions about the participating in both programs. So I think we'll leave it at that. Again, everyone, let's keep in mind that this is a very fluid situation. As I mentioned, the website is changing daily. I myself am trying to stay up on top of things, but really the best thing for you to make accurate and the most appropriate decisions, you want to work with your lenders, you want to work with your accountants or your tax advisors, but also you want to go to the website because that's going to be where your most up-to-date information. Any additional closing remarks from you, Virginia?
No, I just thank you, Ryan, for the opportunity to get the word out. The more that we can, the better off I think we're all going to be. And any questions, check out the website or reach out to me or our disaster center, and we'll do our best to figure it out for you.
Okay, great. And I want to thank you again, Virginia, for taking the time. I know you are extremely busy this time, especially with everything going on. So thanks again for joining us and presenting. And also thank you to Valerie White, and a special thank you to Senator Sanders. It's really quite an honor to have him join us today and taking the time out of his busy schedule as well. So again, everyone, we will provide the recording for the presentation as soon as that's available, and then any other additional information. So thanks again for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.